Just want to remind everyone why I believe March 8, 2019 is a day to really be watchful for as far as the prophetic last days rapture timeline is concerned. 8 March 2019 ends the spiritual new year 5778. That's when the spiritual new year ends. It's on March the 8th, 2019. That's not far away. This video is going to be a reminder of why I believe 5778 to be so relevant in all of this discussion. It is a very significant Hebrew year. The Torah was given in the year 2448, and to 5778, that's 3330, that's 66.6 jubilees. And I've pointed these things out in previous videos, but as we go along, this is kind of a refresher course on why I believe this to be true. Now, as it regards all of the sevens concerning Trump, there's some new ones that we've added to this. Now, if you haven't, many of you have seen this. If you haven't, it's quite remarkable. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time going through it, but it is 777 days from Trump's inauguration, January 20th, 2017, to the end of 5778, when the spiritual new year 5779 begins. Again, that's March 8, 2019. And there are 25 days on any timeline from rapture to kingdom. It's 25 days exact from March 8, 2019 to May 14, 2026. That would be the kingdom, which just happens to be Israel's birthday. And it happens to also be the day that the earth was dry, according to Genesis 8:14. I may talk about that a little more later on in the video. But these sevens are highly significant. We've seen that in the past. I showed you guys this quite some time ago, where that it's just seven all over the place. 7, 70, 777, you know, triple sevens, double sevens. It's just really is quite amazing. I believe there's a mystery that surrounds this president, Donald Trump, because I don't believe that any of this stuff is a coincidence. If you've listened to this channel for any length of time, you know that I do not believe in coincidences, because we don't worship a God of chance. And so just the fact that from his inauguration to the spiritual new year ending on March 8th, being 777 days, is, to me, it's just quite remarkable. A lot of these things have always run in a 20 and 30 year cycle. We've seen that. Now, what is really more amazing than the fact that it runs in a 20 and 30 year cycle that it always has, is that after 2018, that cycle is broken. And it's the fact that it's broken that I believe is this real significant aspect of it. Could very well mean that we're out of here, because it doesn't continue that 20 or 30 year cycle. I don't believe it will, because I don't see anything 20 or 30 years ahead from 2018 is what I'm trying to say, if you understand what I'm trying to say there. So 1897, 1917, 1947, 1967, 1997, 2017. You go ahead and there's just nothing there. I don't see anything there in the future. And so, you know, 2017 we know was the year of the sign. And I find it really interesting. And I probably should have made a slide and put it into this video, but the numerical value of 2017 shows one word in the Greek. It's one word, which is quite interesting. And there's a word for 2018 that has a numerical value of 2018, which is just as interesting. And it's 2017 is to hold fast or to hold on to, and 2018 is harden. And I think a lot of believers have gone back to sleep. And then when you look at 2019, there is no word. There just is no word that has a numerical value of 2019. God deals in numbers. I've always said that. Just because it hasn't, that we're still here doesn't mean that all of this is just coincidence. That it doesn't mean that he doesn't deal in numbers. And so if I guess what I'm really trying to remind you of is that God does work in patterns, and we see some very remarkable patterns ahead of us here. Even though much of the Christian community, even those who had come awake with the Revelation 12 sign, have pretty much sort of just fallen by the wayside. I think we're closer than we've ever been to our leaving here. Of course, we get closer by the day, but we know that in a moment we shall be changed, and it will come at a time in which we didn't expect. And I've pointed out in the past how I believe those very words could very well explain why we're still here, because we all expected to be out of here in 2017. So the end of the 5778 timeline from March 8, 2021, first day of 5779, I see it as God allowing 5778 to play out, and that takes us to the kingdom on the day in which Israel was reborn, May 14, 2026, where Israel turns 78. And it also happens to be month 2, day 27, according to Genesis 8:14, the day that the earth was dry. What is the tribulation period? It's a period of judgment. So the earth is dry. In other words, judgment complete. Now, just those several, 2 or 3 coincidences, if you want to call them that, just those alone, all converging together, is what causes me to lean heavily toward the next high watch date as being March 8, 2021. I just can't help but do that, given the fact that that's just how the 26-25 days plays out. 1290, 1260, and 75, or 1335 from the midpoint to the kingdom. But it's always 26-25 days. Any timeline has to have 26-25 days. So the kingdom would begin on the day that, according to Genesis 8:14, that the earth, God said the earth was dry, which to me represents judgment complete. Israel would be 77 when Jesus returns. Israel would be 78 as it entered the kingdom age. The return date occurs at a total solar eclipse. The kingdom begins on Israel's rebirth date, May 14, month 2, day 27, the day that the earth was dry. That's when the kingdom, the 1,000-year reign of Christ on earth, would begin. Now, something interesting about the season, John 4:35, say not ye, there are yet 4 months, and then cometh harvest. Well, this probably gives us a note on time. The legal beginning of harvest was fixed, and this would give us in that year, which was a Jewish leap year with a month added, it would give us sometime about the middle of the month, January, as the date of this conversation, which means Jesus would have seen the early harvest to be in mid-May, and I just got through saying that this would be May 14th, Israel's birthday, when he returned, which I believe that's what he was referring. It's probably very likely what he was referring to when he talked about that. So since the Revelation 12 sign, we got to keep in mind it was just a sign. A few of us really stopped to consider that it was the Revelation 12 sign, not the Revelation 12 event. There's 77 occurrences. There's that number 7 again, just the word sign. So the night's far gone. The day is at hand. Romans 13:12. We are looking at entering into a period which is, to me, the highest watch time ever. 5778. We're still in it. We're still in 5778. The Holy Spirit is behind all of what's written. It is God-breathed, God-inspired, and I believe that there's much that can be said about patterns, including numbers. Now, as far as our calendar, the Gregorian calendar, it's interesting. 3760 was the year. If you add 2018, you get 5778. So, and the numerical value of shalom or peace is 376. Drop the 0. I find that interesting. Now, again, I just don't believe in coincidences. We don't serve the God of, we don't worship a God of chance. And since there's 3760 years from the beginning of the exile in Canaan in 2018 Hebrew calendar to 5778, and since the Holy Temples jointly stood for 832 years, there are 2928 years that the Jews were not connected to the temples since the exile began. Once again, analogous to the year the first temple was built, 2928 on the Hebrew calendar. We know that Jesus, the numerical value is 888. Most of us know that. That's quite remarkable just in and of itself. 8 being a new beginning, tripled. Okay, and if you add Christ to it, 1480. So being that Jesus is 888 and Christos is 1480, that has a total. And that total is significant. It's a significant number, in my opinion. Jesus Christ, the total of the numerical value of Jesus Christ. 88 hits when it comes to the phrase Son of Man. To me, I find that extremely interesting. So Moses was born 2368 years after creation, according to Jewish tradition. Jesus 888, Christ 1480, Jesus Christ equals 2368. And Zechariah's prophecy occurred in the year 3410. And if we add 3410 and that 2368, it's 5778. And as I pointed out, Son of Man occurs 88 times in the Authorized Version. There are numerous scriptures which suggest Jesus represents the Son. He's even called S-U-N, the Son, in certain passages of the Word. And there are 88 constellations. The diameter of the Sun, 864,337. If you take that 864,337, it's 2368,0465 days. The first 4 digits, 2368. If you look at that, convert that like that. So these are just a few interesting facts that to me help cause me to lean that direction, heavily that direction, toward March 8th. Now, the 2368 in Strong's is a signet, a seal, a signet ring. I find that interesting. There's just, in going through the data, I've looked at a lot of this stuff that is, it's hard to retain all that information, but as we get closer, a lot of that stuff's coming back, and it's looming larger in a sense. It seems to be making more sense the closer that we get to the day of our departure. I believe that 5778 is key, and so do many others. There's just so much that points to 5778. It's you try to get away from that 4-digit Hebrew year number, and you can't. I mean, it's not that I'm prejudiced toward 5778. I have no reason to be prejudiced toward any particular date. It's just that 5778 is, I mean, when you stop and think about the significance of that, there was a whole lot that had to do with 5777 And now we're in 5778. We're well into it. We're almost to the end of it. In fact, it ends March 8th. Looking at the verse number, 2368, that's interesting because, and thou shalt take the ram of the consecration and seethe his flesh in the holy place, and Aaron and his sons shall eat the flesh of the ram and the bread that is in the basket by the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and they shall eat those things wherewith the atonement was made to consecrate and to sanctify them, but a stranger shall not eat thereof, because they are holy. This is talking about, it takes you, really, it points you to John 6:5-4, where that Jesus said, whosoever eateth my flesh and drinketh my blood hath eternal life, and I'll raise him up on the last day. It just points to him. Nothing in your life, or in my life, or in anyone's life, nothing as far as it regards individual lives, as far as it regards anything in the order of creation. It just doesn't happen by chance. We just don't serve a God of chance. Look at everything that's going on right now around us, around the world, the upheaval, the lawlessness. There's one word in Scripture that has a numerical value of 2018. Just one word, and that word is harden. That's the Gregorian year that we're in, harden. This 2368 keeps popping up everywhere. Even rightly dividing the word, the word rightly dividing is 1480 in the original Greek text. Now, and so it speaks of rightly dividing the word. Jesus is the word. The Sermon on the Mount consists of 107 verses, 1 through 107 added up. If you added that all the way to 107, that's 5778. Now, just stop and think about that for a minute. Not 106 verses or 108 verses, which would throw it off. But the Sermon on the Mount consists of 107 verses. If you just add those up all the way to 107, it equals 5778. I'm sorry, I just can't see it as a coincidence. It's, if nothing else, I'm not saying that something's going to happen on March 8th. I'm just saying that it's causing me to lean heavily toward it being a high watch day. It's even, and I will give power to my two witnesses, the numerical value of that whole phrase is 5778. So we may be close. We're not going to enter into that time of Jacob's trouble, but it could be just right around the corner. Knowledge shall increase, Daniel 12:4. I showed this slide in a video quite some time ago, but it just shows you that, how Google owns most of the data. We live in an age we're so used to it now, it's kind of like we just become accustomed or acclimated, to it. We don't give much thought to it anymore. But just that alone should tell everyone on the planet that his coming is near, just from the technology that we're using just to communicate with one another. And so, again, I love it that 888 and 1480, just these, it's how that 1480, I will abide in thy tabernacle forever. I will trust in the covert of thy wings, Selah, Psalm 61:4. We find that, that connection there. And so that 888 and 1480 is all over the place as well. 1948 years after creation, Abraham was born. Israel was reborn 1948. 2018 years after creation, Abraham receives the covenant. We're in 2018. 430 total years of exile from covenant to 2448. Moses receives the Torah, 2448. As I mentioned, 66.6 Jubilee years, 3330 years from 2448 to the year that we're in now, 5778. That alone, right there, just taken by itself, is quite remarkable. But when you compile all this together, it's really quite remarkable. Strong's 5778, Ophe, it's the word from it's an Israelite. It's the name of an Israelite, but it's from the word fly. If you look at the root word, and so there's a lot of stuff here that I'm putting back out there that you can maybe pause the screen and look at and stop and just ponder over. I look at this stuff all the time, and it's really got me excited. I really don't. I think that our time is extremely short now. I don't see how anyone could think that it isn't. This, as I pointed out, the 107 verses of the Sermon on the Mount, adding up to 5778. The 107th triangular number, 5778. So again, we see that mathematically. We see that, and God is the great mathematician. So we see this 5778 just keeps on popping up all over the place. This 70-year analogy just alone is amazing. Abraham born to him receiving the covenant, 70 years. Israel reborn to the present, 70 years. It's like God is showing us on both calendars. It's I think the two calendars are. I've often said that they work like two sides of a zipper. They're in sync with one another. We're the church. We're not Israel. So God would most definitely show us things on both calendars. First temple destroyed, 3338. 3338 is 422. That 422 is important. There's a lot of significance to that 422 because that's the actually it's the numerical value of the word, 470 in Hebrew. King David lived for 70 years. You'll see 5778 minus 5708, which was the Hebrew year that Israel became a nation, equals 70 years. It doesn't matter how you work it, whether it's one calendar or another. God intends for us to see this stuff. Whether we're a Jew or a Gentile. It just doesn't matter. The second temple built in 352, destroyed in 70 AD. So all of this is, if you just stop a moment just to really reflect on what's written here on this one slide, you can't help but find it amazing. These 70 years, it just also compares to the date, when the second temple was destroyed, to the numerical value of the word 70. When you have it, I wish there was some way that I could really draw a graph that it'd be like you'd have a hub of a wagon wheel, and you'd have the spokes that went out, or a spider sort of a web, where all of this stuff was connected in some way, because I know that it all is. It's just trying to visualize it is almost impossible. You just have to kind of look at it in one segment, in each segment at a time. There's so much of it. It's just too impossible to put it all in some visual graphic where that you could just stand back and look at it and see the whole grand picture of it all. It's just because there's just so much of it. And just that fact alone, that there is so much of it. It's not like that we're having to really hunt and hunt and hunt just to find stuff. It's all over the place. You trip over it, everywhere you look. Even the perfect tense, the Greek dictionary, the lexicon concordance, 5778, is the perfect tense. And since the flood occurred in 1656, and since Moses died in 2488, and There are 2488 minus 1656, or 832 years between the flood and the death of Moses. You see that 832 again. The first temple, it stood for 410 years. Second temple stood for 422. So together they stood for 832. And 832 was the year the first temple was built. I mean, this is, how could anyone say that this stuff is a coincidence? It takes more faith to actually believe that it's a coincidence. So 66.6 jubilees forward from 2448 is 5778. And we are in 5778. And not only are we in it, we're about to get out of it. That's the whole point. That's the point I'm trying to stress here. This 5778 from youth, the Ophe. It's Ophe is the word, but it's from Uf or Uf. I don't know how you exactly pronounce that, but it's bird-like. Okay, it's and so the root word, it literally means to fly. That's what it means, fly. Fly is really connected to 5778. If I don't see how God is teasing us with this stuff, I find that too impossible to believe. Everything, you just go through the timetable, the Hebrew years, the historical events. Okay, it all points to the year of divine peace being 5778. Not peace in the sense that people think, but as far as those who know Him, those who are born again, the church leaving here, and the revealing of the soon coming of the Messiah. Even all the meanings of the 4 hurricanes, Harvey, Irma, Jose, Katia, put together. When you're looking at iron blazing, God of war, may God give increase, and pure or virgin. I mean, God's trying to wake us up, keep us awake. He's already woken us up with the Revelation 12 sign, and with even going back further with other signs before that, the blood moons and stuff. But He's trying to keep us awake. John 14:29 reminds us, I've told you now before it happens, so that when it does, you'll believe. Just wanted to put this stuff out here, folks, for you to think about, to ponder over, to maybe give someone out there some encouragement, whether you've been going along through this for a long time, or whether you're new to it, whether you're just coming into it. Look, folks, our Lord is coming back soon. I probably wouldn't recommend. I mean, I figure it's safe to buy green bananas, but I wouldn't build a house. Now that may not set right with some of you, but that's just how many of us feel. We're just that close. We need to keep focused, keep our eyes to the sky, pray. If you haven't been following our videos on Romans, I encourage you to do so. I want to thank everyone for their ongoing, continued support, their prayers of encouragement. We love you here at BlessedHopeForever.com. This is Steve. Thanks for listening.